Because if Sousa's good enough for Monty Python, dang it, it's good enough for me. The recruit has been unlocked, which is handy for my mission to have an army consisting of one, and precisely one, of each playable humanoid class, maybe one of each monster, and then to use probably 2 of them and a story character and whatever this game's version of a margin is. As with many tutorials, the recruit is long and only has occasional jokes, so I've cut it down to the bits where Serafina tries to abuse her first one's free privileges. You might not think that someone with her vast wealth would quibble so much about little things, but I am unreliably informed that quibbling about little things is what gets you vast wealth. That's not true though. Mostly what gets you vast wealth is inheriting vast wealth, and then using your position of privilege and influence to manipulate society into letting your vast wealth attract more wealth until the entire economic system breaks. Anyway, as best I've seen from my position in the plot, later on she has a character growth reason to be stingy. Speaking of money, here I am unlocking the DLC classes, and then we'll see who I've recruited. So, back to Bloodparch, and into a new area, Shriveled Vein. Metal. And you can tell it's metal because of all the blood. I just threw up the horns. You couldn't see it, but trust me. Here we see the Overlord of Bloodparch. A little early to see the chapter boss, but that's because he's not the chapter boss, he's just kind of here. He'll ask Killia to tell us about throwing later, which can't complain about that. With the name Logan and a bunch of references later, he's pretty clearly meant to make us think of Andre the Giant. Or maybe another wrestler, one who didn't charm audiences worldwide in The Princess Bride and is therefore less important. I thought that maybe this wouldn't be the case in Japanese, but you may have heard him under my babble calling himself Logan. Still, because he's speaking Japanese and thus never really saying brother, Parchomaniacs, or 24-inch pythons, to properly increase the confusion, I shall refer to him by the names of Japanese pro wrestlers I've just looked up on Wikipedia. Looked up on Wikipedia because while I'm very fond of pro wrestling in theory, I've never managed to get into it in practice. Jushin Thunder Liger intimidates us by throwing all his minions away and then tiring himself out by throwing all his minions away. It's not the strategy I would have picked, but then I've never won the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship at all, let alone 11 times. And Killia is eating in a combat situation! Good old Killia. He has a personality trait. I'm just jealous. I want a curry bowl. And everyone goes into their animated combat stance. We know what that means. Tutorials. I do not want to see the lift and throw tutorial. I know how to do both of those things. Okay, I will admit, this bugs me. It's just asked me, do you want to see the lift and throw tutorial? And I've said no, and so it doesn't show me the lift and throw tutorial. But now it shows me the Montos and Receive tutorial. I'm not allowed to say, I do not want to see the Montos and Receive tutorial. I understand that Montos is new to the series, so that's a good reason to explain it to us, but Receive isn't. And frankly, it doesn't really need a whole new tutorial. It's just a monster can toss someone standing next to it without lifting it first. That's it. That's all of it. Receiving means if you throw on top of a monster, it will pass it in the direction it's facing and won't take a turn. That's it. That doesn't need a tutorial. Especially not a tutorial that I've kind of said I don't really want. But that's me whining a lot. What is interesting and new about throwing in Disgaea 5 is that in previous games, you could only throw horizontally or vertically, I suppose, in one of the directions. You couldn't throw diagonally, is what I'm saying, in a stupid way that doesn't make sense. So that I just did with the angel and the healer, that would have taken a lot more time, a lot more setting up, and a lot more units in previous games. It's kind of amusing that guns were the reverse of that originally. In Disgaea 1, guns could shoot diagonally as well as in these straight lines. There's a word for it. I know there's a word for it, but I don't know what that word is. Just using the maid's power to use an item and then attack to do exactly 1 damage to Bad Luck Fale over there. But yes, the bows were thereby rendered useless because guns were just as powerful, if not more powerful, had a longer range, and could shoot anywhere. So from Disgaea 2 onwards, guns could no longer do that. They had to fire in straight, non-diagonal lines. And then in Disgaea 5, they decided, hey, throwing should work like a bow and not like a gun. It does make things simpler. I've certainly been sorely missing it in Disgaea 4. I'm piling up on the boss here because why not pile up on the boss? Trying to set up a team attack there with my Prinnies. I've decided, by the way, that Prinnie Danny, he's the Prinnie hero. Prinnie HD down there, he's okay. He's not bad. I don't disapprove of HD, but Danny, that's the hero. And there, of course, I don't know what I'm going to do when I get out of Blood Parch and there's no more cacti to mangle. What will Killia do with himself? You won't even know. I've noticed that the Prinnies seem to be shouting, as best I can tell, toast! Is that their verbal tick? I remember saying in the last episode that since I don't know what their verbal tick is, I, can't think of them saying dude. This is a pretty cool team attack. I like it. It takes a while, and I wish there were more team attacks, but I like that one. Unfortunately, in a later fight in this recording, I actually forget that I've just shown you that one, and I skip out of 16 times speed to show you basically the same thing again. So look forward to that, and by look forward to that, I mean don't look forward to that. Be really aggravated when I do that. I'm sending Gabrielle up to kill that treasure to open it for me, because unlike in the Mini-Makai, the Pocket Netherworld, I know in this case that if I don't get that treasure by the end of the map, they don't let you hang around. I've also noticed, throwing Killia over to deal with those martial artists, that I can actually afford to level Killia up a bit more. I've been focusing him on cacti so as not to get him over-leveled, but you don't want the other way around. Here we go. I have a rare bomb. Not much I'm going to do with that. Now it looks here like Killia's talking to himself. Looks like your weapon mastery increased, he says, having just increased his own weapon mastery. Now, that seems weird, but I assure you, as with any dark and troubled, not particularly talkative RPG hero, he will have a dark split personality later, so it all makes sense. You see, that's what disappoints me about team attacks in Disgaea 5. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy that we just wiped out Robbie Eagles there, but that all throwing up your energy to Goku for the Spirit Bomb thing, that's the same as a 2-person team attack we did earlier. The 3-person team attack should be more impressive, shouldn't they? Which, I still like that one. The running and spinning a person and drilling someone into the ground. That I like. What I don't like is that treasure chest just showed up. Remember what I said about how at the end of the map you don't get a chance to run around and get all the treasure back? I just killed the last guy. It's the end of the map. That treasure chest that appeared after I killed the guy? I'm never going to get that treasure chest. It's another treasure chest that is lost. We could call this entire playthrough Tale of Lost Treasure Chests. And yeah, you could pay attention to how Killia just told Asclepia about how she can use her heal, but I'm just really sad about that treasure. So Shinsuke Nakamura just said Honore, which is a classic for anime villains to have had anime villains. How dare he say dude? Even if he doesn't say it in Japanese, he's not a Prinnie. He is stepping all over Prinnie territory. The Prinnies should revolt. Which was sort of the reverse of the plot of Disgaea 4. I mean, at least the start of Disgaea 4. So, I suppose the Prinnies have already reverse revolted. And that's pretty good for them. Don't you talk to me about the basics of battle, Killia. I skipped the basics of battle. You may have forced me to watch your Montoss and Receive tutorial, but you can't retroactively have made me watch the basics of battle. Here I stand, I can do no other. I'm exactly like Martin Luther, except I'm not virulently anti-Semitic and super eager to marry my relatives. Seraphina starts this section of the conversation being possessive, creepy, and full of stalking, but she does raise an excellent point. If Killia wants Void Dark dead, and he presumably does because of all that vengeance to which he's preluding, it can't hurt to have Seraphina and her vast resources at his side. If nothing else, she can be a decoy. Every fireball Void Dark throws at Seraphina is one he's not throwing at Killia. That's tangible fireball reduction. I don't know if it's plot related as to why Killia reacts more dramatically to Seraphina saying it's more like we're husband and wife than to anything else, including being shot, or just ridiculous. I'm hoping for ridiculous. I remember that was Flon and Laharl's entire relationship for the first half of Disgaea 1. Why are you doing evil things? Because demon. Repeat 15 times. The quest shop is open, and that's another time killer for me, much like the item world, but we'll get to that later. For now, I'm ignoring Seraphina. Everyone who wants to talk to you gets an icon in the top right, and I think I should initiate with the Prinnie. As you can see, it doesn't change anything. The conversation that results from this is with Seraphina and her Prinnies, but it makes me feel more like the master of my fate and the captain of my soul. Invictus by William Ernest Henley remains one of my favourite poems, even after it's been ruined by Timothy McVeigh making it his final statement, and I've just been informed that a mass shooter included it in his manifesto. Invictus, loved by terrible people, and also me. Should I worry? Either way, top marks for honesty for the Prinnies that saw their comrades getting shot by Seraphina and still refusing to lie. Once again, the same people want another conversation that just couldn't be linked in with the first one. Again, I talk to the Prinnie. Again, Seraphina hogs the spotlight. Well, it's in character for her, as is making the Prinnies carry anything heavier than a cake. She leaves it unstated what sort of cake. A solid fruitcake can be pretty heavy. I would happily have Prinnies carrying me fruitcake. Killia keeps ignoring that Seraphina is packing a bow and bat and says she handles those pistols pretty well. Maybe it's a euphemism. Are you loading up my strictly PG let's have played with filthy euphemisms, Killia? Disgusting. Banned from eating curry for the foreseeable future. This Prinnie is apparently the Kato Fong to Seraphina's Inspector Clouseau, but with slightly less racism, attacking to keep her on her toes. Or maybe he sees it as a desperate step towards freedom. Either way, no sale. While it might not be strictly possible to hit someone with the reverse of your sword with a bullet, Tokusatsu has taught me that it's just as apropos to say you deliberately missed all the vital organs. Just mangled the unimportant organs. Get up, you filthy Prinnie. Spleens are for closers. I choose to believe that's a different Prinnie than our hero Danny. It's probably HD. Filthy HD. I have just taken the quest to unlock archers, not so much because I want archers, though it'll probably be helpful to have an archer to make up for losing Seraphina's gun range in favour of beating people with bats, but because archers unlock my actual favourite class in the series, the... Breaking in here, sorry Patrick, you can go on about the samurai more later. Right now we have to talk about To Get Outside. It is amazing because you can solve it by going barely 5 steps away, buying its object and walking 5 steps back to make 370 hell in profit. Why bother learning to play the guitar? The samurai. She's got sword aptitude to spare, her attack stat growth and aptitude are brutal, she moves quick, throws far, deals extra damage in one-on-one, has a fantastic and dynamic design, and is generally made of good. Oh wait, the next bit's good, I've worked embarrassingly hard on this. Yeah, so there. Yeah. Anyway, back to the samurai. And that's why I am standing outside the samurai's house, holding up a boombox, playing a shakuhachi and koto cover of In Your Eyes. Is half the right word? Anyway, someone make that cover for me. Man, this imp. This imp is the ne plus ultra of shonen anime villains. This imp is the big guy the hero fights during the first arc, where it's more important to introduce the characters than to have a compelling villain, so we just get a big guy who hurts people and then insults them and doesn't fight with honor or respect his opponents, and then he says NANI when the shonen hero gives a fairly mild rebuttal to his being a jerk. But the thing is, this isn't even a big guy. This is an imp. Imps are not big guys by definition. Didn't I tell you? There it is. Nani? This guy is not interesting, so I'm going to tell you a story about when my sister was a little tiny baby. For some reason, I was telling her about shonen villains and how frequently they said Nani, and how that was pretty funny, because in English, nanny can mean one who takes care of children. And my tiny baby sister put on her best shonen villain voice and growled out, "Babysitter!" It was fantastic. My sister is so much better than that imp, and that's why I'm not about to murder my sister in this map. The imp, however, is on an express train to Murder Town, and it is not stopping at Honorville, Relent Plaza, or Showing Important and Laudable Mercy Complex. Because it's an express. No stops. Having interrupted myself twice while I was talking about the samurai, timing never agrees with where you want to put your script points, even when you're the one who edits your own video. It's a weird little fact of life. I guess I can talk about my characters now. So there's Brynhilde, who's a mobile frontliner. I use the female warrior more than the male because of attempting to disrupt subconscious sexism, and also because the design is better. The male warrior is just kind of nothing, while the female warrior at least has chunky belts and that hairband haircut. Her basic ability means she should move a lot before she attacks, so I gave her the versatile, wide-ranging weapons that fit her specializations: spear, bow. I'd missed the versatile sword special hacks, but Killia will still have those. She and Asclepia, the healer, are the people I need to level up to get an archer. Then after that, I'm pretty sure it's Brynhilde and the new archer, who, if no one suggests a better name, will probably be Artemis, who I need to level up to get a samurai. I probably, left my own devices, wouldn't use the maid class much, but that item use can be very helpful, so I'm trying to force myself. Tsuruya launch arrow and throw knife, and we're all happy. Later on, she might also throw healing items. I should probably try making her use stealing hands. Hekate's the newcomer. I had to recruit her after that battle when I went Hang on, why do I have no mages? I use mages more than skulls for the same reason I use female warriors more than male warriors. The downside this time is that skulls have a straight up better basic ability. More powerful spells are great, and saving SP doesn't make much of a difference when you can stick an orb on someone. The crosses I bear. I choose to believe that this makes me a better person. You can't argue. Well, you can, but it's not going to go up here because you're not editing this video. Gabrielle is named for... Who knows the Steve Jackson Games RPG in nomine? I do! Who's played the Steve Jackson Games RPG in nomine? I haven't! Anyway, in that game the Archangel Gabriel often appears in a female form and thus often goes by Gabrielle. And in this game the Celestial Host appear female, though I hear there might be male angels later, so Gabrielle it is. In nomine, Gabrielle was kind of cracked by having had to endorse multiple religions, and in one of the book's flavor text, memorably burned a cigarette through her host's cheek. This Gabrielle probably isn't going to do that and also uses a sword. Yay, sword special moves. It does raise the point that in Disgaea 1 the angels had the creepiest voice clips, just repent, die, and all that sort of thing. Whereas in the later games they seem nicer. Killia and Seraphina are Killia and Seraphina. Killia is going to be a heavy hitter no matter what, and I like to see where Seraphina's acting is going to get her. Danny is the best Prinnie, HD is the worst Prinnie. Adjust your Prinnie fandom accordingly. As to Asclepius, the hardest thing in a Disgaea game tends to be how you get mana to the healer. Mana mostly comes from final blowing an enemy. Healers don't do that. Healers can get experience by healing, but to the best of my knowledge, not mana. And mana is how you boost their skill. Sometimes they get a nasty heal or only ability like Disgaea 4's Overload, but most of the time you have to give them a bow and make them a subpar archer until you manage to cheat them a damage spell. That's easier in 5 than in earlier Disgaeas. You can get scrolls that teach you skills and abilities, including damage spells. Things are looking up for Asclepius. Kind of. I told you Red Magnus was showing up. Here, someone even said his name. The dumb imp is being terrified of him just like any good, which is to say bad, generic shonen villain should. That is because Red Magnus is an unstoppable level 5 at this point. Tremble. I know I said I was going to murder that imp. I tried my hardest. I choose to believe that he's already dead, but too impressed by how great my units were to fall over. When he gets a few hundred meters away from Killia and Seraphina, the sparkliness will fade and he'll collapse. Or disintegrate. Or collapse, then disintegrate, then the place where he disintegrated will burst into flames. You have to be optimistic about this, you know. Seraphina is not a big fan of Red Magnus. Not really that much of a big fan at all. Obscure Homestar Runner reference. Red Magnus does not eat her pinecone, and that is not a euphemism. And if it was a euphemism, he still wouldn't. Now, she calls him Violence Incarnate here, which is a pretty death metal name. It could be the album which has the song about the plants that grow by drinking blood. But to be honest, he's really not. He's more Adolescence Incarnate. And that's not really a very death metal name. It's more a shoegaze name. It'd be the album which has the song about the plants that die in the window like the lead singer's last relationship. And it'd be performed by Sloshy. Not obscure Homestar Runner reference. I let that all play out so that you could thoroughly appreciate the greatest mystery in the entire Disgaea 5 story. Why did Killia feel the need to make a sketch? So honestly, I think that went a lot better than the first video. You might have noticed more scripted monologue and me having to Frankenstein edit that monologue to avoid blown out peaks. Don't ever look behind the curtain of this video, because I can tell you that through editing, not just that monologue editing, all the editing, it became a total mess. Anyway, I think I'm doing better at this lark. If you think I'm doing better at this, like, comment, and subscribe. If you don't think I'm doing better at this, just like and subscribe. And either way, look forward to the next video, which should be coming out fairly regularly. And by regularly, I mean at about the same interval as these two. Hopefully. Let's see.